Good evening and welcome to the third series of Loose Links. We've got a bit of a difference tonight. Have a look at the titles when we go on to it. But we're talking about a man charged by his ex. We also discuss the tip reopening again. And are we good at queuing? And we finish on a kind of slightly sensitive story about an ex. But do you think it's still important to stay civil with them? All that on tonight's show. Hello, welcome to Loose Links. Joining me on the panel this evening is Claire Browning-May.
Hi.
Georgina Croshaw.
Good evening, Lincoln.
And Chris Clark.
Hey!
Evening, everybody. As we talk about this evening, a Lincoln man has been accused of being a stalker. So we talk about, do you think it's really important that people can just think what they can do what they like these days? Also, we talk about the tip reopening, so we literally are talking about rubbish. Are we good in Lincolnshire at queuing? And we finish on the subject, quite a sensitive subject, about an ex. But do you think it's still important, children or not, to stay civil with an ex-partner? All that on tonight's show. Good evening, Bono.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Oh my word! 4 weeks being off. It's so good to be back. How are we all?
Brilliant, thank you.
No, not bad, thank you.
Did you enjoy the 4 weeks off?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we've got plenty in.
Right. To start off with, I haven't mentioned it this evening, but as you can see, Loose Links has come back with a bit of a difference this evening, and that's all down to the man you see on the screen in front of you. No, that's not me, that's Chris Clark. You spent weeks and weeks putting that together. So Chris, I just wanted to ask you a few questions about it really, and see what you come up with. So all I gave you really was, when I said I wanted, apologise for that, I wanted new credits doing the Loose Links, and all I gave you was I wanted it to be the Loose Links colour. What inspired you to do what you've done?
Well, obviously, having learned quite a lot more about Loose Links since doing the first lot of titles, I thought one of the themes should be sort of this inclusive thing where you like to sort of have everyone's opinion. You always say that every week, don't you? And I think there's a very much a feeling of being inclusive amongst the panel members, in terms of diversity. So I don't know if you noticed, but I actually used some of the Pride flag colours to transition.
I was well impressed with that.
I was looking for a transition between shots, and I thought, yeah, that fits the theme really well, and it looks great. So that was my inspiration for that part. So that was a little idea I had for the animation. And
so what made you change the theme tune? What made you, because you brought it back as a new theme tune, and I think it's very modern now. We've turned it into a very modernised professional outlook. But what made you think, oh, actually, to add on to this, it'd be good to have a new theme tune for Loose Links?
I think when you're updating something, it's good to have everything fresh and sort of keep it relevant to now rather than, what has come before. Obviously, I've learned a lot from what has come before in the last couple of series. But yeah, it's great to stay relevant and be sort of more here and now, I think. So that's why the theme tune was a bit more suited to Loose Links as it is now, really.
Well, I love it. I absolutely love it. And we keep saying this, but we do need to put your details onto the Loose Links page. That if anybody else is interested or needs something like that, Chris is a great bloke to go to talk to. So we'll put your details on this week's show to do it. Claire Browning-May, you're back. You were supposed to be with us on Saturday the 28th. Where was you?
I was poorly.
Well, you were poorly with what? Man flu?
No.
COVID?
Oh,
You
Oh,
had
dear.
COVID.
But
Did you
I'm
miss
back.
us?
Pardon?
Did you miss us?
Oh, well, I didn't. Well, I was there. I was watching you. But
Yeah.
I was really looking forward to it, and I was gutted. And it was a lovely day. It was the first time that you were going live, and honoured that you had asked me. And
There'll be plenty of other times. Plenty of other times. Georgina, you were one of the panelists. Did you enjoy the day?
I thoroughly enjoyed it. Yes, well worth doing.
Oh,
And we got our points across.
we did. It was Georgina was our saviour, really. We had no table and chairs, and Georgina found us table and chairs. But hopefully, I've left it in Chris's hands now to make us a set. So that might be something else that's coming on the cards. But
Right.
a massive, and can we give a clap as well? Actually, a massive thank you, and for an amazing day to Ashley Hill that put the whole of Pride together. It was run absolutely beautifully, and it was an event that will stay in my mind for a very long time. So well done, Ashley. You did really well. So let's talk about the topics this evening then. I've missed topics, and Claire, I'm sure you've got a lot to say because you quite like a good chit chat with us now, don't you?
oh, I love it. Yeah, from when I was new a year ago, and now I'm a little bit looser, should I say?
But look, all panelists are eventually going to get these. We finally got them. We finally got them ordered. We finally got show cards, so it's a bit more professional. And every panelist will eventually have one of these. So we're getting that little bit more professional. So, a Lincolnshire man who stalked his ex-partner and threatened to burn down her house has appealed in the court, charged with multiple offences. A man from Lincoln appeared in Lincoln Magistrate Court where he pleaded guilty to one of stalking, one account of harassment, one account of threats to cause criminal damage. The victim has reported he harassed her between August the 11th and 24th, and then on Sunday the 29th, he threatened to burn her house down. So, do you think, panel, that today people just think that there's no law and they can just do what they want? They can treat people how they feel they should be treated. Do you think we have a lot of that nowadays?
I'm not sure we have more than we used to, do we? What do you think, Claire? You look like you had something to say.
Licking my lips, ready to go. No, what I think is that I'm not saying that they don't think about what they're doing. I personally think that the sentences or whatever they get is not long enough. It's not good enough, and again, it's a different subject, but you go back to like America and go to the lethal injection or something. Do you know what I mean? People know that they're going to go, if they're going to do something wrong, they'll go to prison, but they'll only do half of it because it's it's for good behaviour or what have you. Prisons are overflowing anyway. So
do you think, Chris, that prison is too cushiony nowadays? Do you think people, once they've been to prison, might reoffend to go back to prison? I can't. What did you say? I missed that.
I said I've never been, so I'm not too sure.
Do you think people aren't afraid of prison nowadays? Prison seems to be a bit more cushiony, doesn't it? You can have a TV in a prison cell. You can be educated in prison now. You can get qualifications in prison now. Do you think that when people have offended, it's now harder to be on the outside than it is on the inside?
Oh, well, let's put it this way. I'd be scared if I was facing prison, definitely. But perhaps there is an argument that maybe somebody in a less fortunate position might see it as a cushy place to be. I don't really know, to be honest. I've not got that much experience with people who've been to prison, but I know a couple of people that have been, and they weren't overly keen on going back. Let's put it that way.
No. Do you think it's easier prison nowadays, though, Georgina? When we look at stories about people going to prison and people even reoffending, Do you think prison's a bit more cushiony than it ought to be?
To me, it seems a lot more more like a holiday camp. I know it's not, but it seems like that to me. Why do people go into prison, come out, and within a few weeks they've reoffended to get back in because it's the easy life? No, I think there ought to be a regime in prison where you have to respect people, you have to respect properties, and it ought to be like a boot camp.
Do you think, I slightly agree, but only slightly agree, because I think as well, let's go to you, Claire, and this as well, but I think as well, there are some people that, yes, I think any institute, I can't even say the word, any place where you get used to living and you get used to the life, of course you're going to get used to it. Of course you have to adapt, you have to get used to it. But I still believe today there are people that go in and are like, I'm never doing this again. I don't want to be in this place again. I really want to change my life. Do you agree with me there, Claire?
You're talking again about like first offenders, aren't you then, basically? So, you know, it depends on what they've actually done. So say if it is for this guy who, you know, is threatening to burn somebody's house down, you know, is that just an act of jealousy or whatever? You know, they've split up and, you know, she won't have him back, blah, blah, blah. So he's going to go in, never done anything before, and it frightens them. But then you get the reoffenders who, you know, time and time again, they've been in there, they know exactly what it's like. So, you know, they just think it's lenient. They'll do the crime and do the time. But the time's what? You know, go in a bit further, 3 hot meals a day, roof over the head, electricity, like you say, tellies, pool, education. And you get our old people who, you know, sometimes can't even afford to put the heating on.
Do you think though? Do you think, Chris, love? When we talk, so let's go on the subject of love. Let's go off the subject of prison. But when you love somebody, when you really love somebody, obviously you've got a wife, so you'll experience this. When you really love somebody, do you think you would do stupid things when you think about it because you're afraid of losing that love, you're scared of doing it? Like loads of people react in different ways when it comes to
I think we're all guilty of doing daft things, aren't we, in the past? You know, nobody's perfect, and we've all been there where you've been in perhaps a relationship where one side is less requited than the other, and yeah, we can do daft things and say daft things, but there's a level, isn't there? I mean, there's saying something you regret, and then there's nearly burning someone's house down.
Yeah, and I if I'm honest, I have sympathy a little bit for this man, because I'm not saying at all, and I condolences to the victim out there if you are watching it, but mental health plays a massive part in it. And I remember being in a relationship that I would have done anything to hold on to, absolutely anything to hold on to. And it can mess with your brain. And it's only when you're faced with it that you think, what the hell have I done? So do you think that people are set out to do stuff like that, are determined, actually, this is what I'm going to do? Or it could just be a fleeting moment? Do you get what I mean? Do you understand where I'm saying that, Claire, or do you completely disagree?
No, yeah, it's like, is it like first offenders? You know, yeah, I think you know, if it's a first offender, he's probably not gone out to think, right, I'm going to burn your house down. We don't know all the scenario of what built up to what he was doing, you know. But to actually say, I'm going to burn your house down, what's the consequences of that? Who else is going to be in that house? You know? So it's a difficult one because like you say, everybody's different, and then, like, well, Chris said, it's in the fleet of the moment what you would do, what's got you to that extent that you know, to even think that you're going to burn somebody's house down. But then, are they going to do it? Is it just a false threat? Because that's the only way that they can come across.
Yeah, and there is that, isn't there? And on I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about them actually, but I'll briefly talk about it. I'm a huge TikTok person. I don't mainly do videos, but I watch a lot of people. That's really weird, isn't it? I watch a lot of people. But there's somebody called the Smithy family that are massive on TikTok, and they've recently had their house burned down by 2 youths. The youths have been identified. But when it comes to like social media and stuff like that, do you think jealousy is a massive part of that? Do you think being jealous and takes a massive part in your actions? Georgina, let's go to you. Do you think jealousy makes a massive turning point?
If jealousy is part of it, we don't know why this couple split up in the first place.
No.
And if he was a controlling type of person, I can just imagine him doing it. He wanted it all his own way all the time, and she said, no, get lost. Bring it down to its simplest form. But
I'm sure she used stronger words than get lost, but thank you for saying get lost.
I can't say any better words than that. No, I think that it all depends on why they broke up for in the first place. Well, what was she having an affair on the side? He could still be absolutely in love with this woman, but she's not. But he won't accept it that the relationship is over with. That's the problem.
Yeah.
But again, it's like he's threatening to burn the house down. It's like in some relationships when people split up, when one of the partners will say, well, I'm going to kill myself because, you know, if you don't want me, or they'll go the other way and they'll like not burn the house down, but I'm going to kill you because if I can't have you, then nobody can have you. You know, I've not been in that situation myself, but you know how do they get to that part, you know, to feel that they've got to literally destroy somebody that they love because it's not going either their way or that the other person doesn't want them. You know, it's really hard.
It's a difficult one, isn't it? But let's move on. Do you think we are in crisis when it comes to this type of behaviour? Do you think there is no fear for the police these days? Do you think police authority has gone out the window? Let's go to you first, Chris. What do you think? Do you think police authority has gone?
No, I don't think so. I just think it's very different to how it used to be. Obviously, I think the whole sort of policing on the streets is not what it used to be. We've touched on that subject before. But in terms of consequences for this sort of behaviour, I don't think that in general people just think they can do what they like without fear of any consequences, you know, whether it's police intervention or being taken to court or going to prison or whatever it is. I just think that, sort of slightly going back to what we were saying before, there are so many factors to consider, you know, the mental health of the person in question, the type of personality, you know, is this person just naturally like that, or was it a moment of madness? We don't know these things. We can only speculate. So I think there's lots of different factors involved. Some people may not even consider the law. Some people may be terrified.
But when it comes to the police, even with COVID has opened, I hate talking about COVID on the show because it's the one subject that I really don't want to talk about because we hear enough about it outside. But when we even think about COVID, you saw young people, middle-aged people fighting against the police, saying you can't touch me, you can't do anything, you can't do this, you can't, I've got rights, this, that and the other. When parks were closed, people were going still into parks, expecting the police to run after them. Do you think...
The other side of that is that I was, disappointed with that sort of thing. But on the other side of it, there were a lot of people respecting the guidelines and the laws. And actually, there was a large sense of doing the right thing and being in it together in that way. So there's always both sides of it. There are going to be people, and there'll always be the same people probably, who don't respect the law. And there'll be 100%. The people who do.
And do you think, though, that let's go to you, Georgina. Do you think that what Chris has just brought up, actually, because I thought COVID really did bring not only Lincolnshire, but a nation together again. It was all about looking out for each other and stuff like that. Do you feel now that that's died off a little bit and we're all vaccinated a little bit? I'm not talking about vaccinations, but just talking about moving forward. Do you think that community spirit has now disappeared again? Do you think actually we all supported each other while we were in it, but we're not going to support each other now? It's about me, myself and I all over again.
Personally speaking, nothing's changed. The group of people I live with were all of an age, and they never mixed anyway. The only times when we got together was clapping outside on the doorstep for the nurses and the NHS. But beyond that,
did you do that, Georgina?
Yes.
Oh, you camped outside?
No, I didn't camp outside. I stood outside. Thank you very much.
I thought you said camped outside. No, that's why I was like, you camped outside all night.
No, but I don't think the community spirit has changed at all. I treat people exactly the same way. If I can help somebody, I will. I don't notice it so much, but no, I think it's back to what it was. I really do. Unfortunately.
What about you, Claire? Because obviously you're in the education system. But did you feel a connection and an energy of being more together? And do you still feel that energy and that connection is still there?
Well, of course, I've only been back today because I couldn't go back last week. But I still think it's there, and the everything, safety and that is really good. We're not like in bubbles, but we're still doing a lot of what we were doing when we were keeping safe. But now everything, like for shops, for instance, is all your choice. So, if you want to wear a mask from classroom to classroom, you can do. The parents are still not allowed in the class because, of course, I'm foundation, so that's good. You know. But yeah, I feel that as far as my school work goes, that we are still a tight knit. But like I say, out there now, it's quite frightening still. Because of course I've just had the dreaded COVID, and that was, we went away for a week, and as I say, my son rarely goes out, and he caught it.
Oh, did he catch it too?
He was the first one to get it. We all tested, and he was the only positive one. It wasn't until I did a PCR that then I found out that I'd got it. But it's just frightening because now you go into shops, and it's if you want to wear one, you can. I've been to the shop tonight, put my mask on. Social distancing, there's none of that out there now, is there? It's just frightening. It's still out there, and people are still getting it.
But let's talk about a subject that I know someone will be very excited to discuss with us as theatre doors reopen once all over again and audiences can come back. What's it been like, Chris? Have you experienced to share what's it been like going back into the acting world?
Joyous. Well, my main theatre experience at the moment has been performing as a singer and musician. So I've had a few shows around the country since August, and it's been brilliant. Yeah, a long time coming, because I think actually our industry has probably had it more rough than most. You know, even like gyms and stuff were open so much in advance of theatres and venues. So I think my first show was towards the end of August. We did the O2 Academy in Bristol, which was brilliant. And yes, there is that, like you say, there's that sense of worry that there's such a lot of people together in one space. But at the same time, it was also lovely to see so many people enjoying themselves in that kind of environment like they used to.
Can you describe the atmosphere? The first time you went on the stage, can you describe what it was like?
Well, I can tell you that I didn't know I was going to be gigging at the O2 Academy. I thought it was just so for a start off, it was very nerve-wracking because it was my first show in 18 months or something like that. But yeah, it was absolutely buzzing.
Good. It's good to hear stuff like I can't wait. I've missed. I'm a very live musical sort of gay man, if you haven't already guessed. I am, and I've risked it a lot. I can't wait to go back and see shows and stuff like that. I'm dead excited. Going back to the law thing though, let's have one more question. We are encouraged nowadays as people to speak out more. If anything happens, to talk, because we were very silenced years ago. The only thing is though, it's a long process now, the court of law. And you can go to a police station, you can report something, but before it's even made it to court, CPS have got to accept it and accept that there's enough evidence there to take it to court. Do you think that puts that we're almost still being silenced because of that? Do you think there's still a lot of silence because it's still a long process, and even though it's taken all your energy to go forward and report it, that it might be thrown out of court at the very last minute? Do you think we're silenced more still, Claire?
Yeah, I do. It's just difficult. People, you know, for somebody to actually come forward in the first place, like you say, you know, to make a statement, to go through that, and then right at the end not knowing if it's actually going to go to court. People would just think, well, why bother? Why should I waste my time and energy when it's not even going to go anywhere?
Do you think though, Chris, that puts there's a hell of still a lot of victims out there nowadays that have gone through horrific things, but actually when it comes to sitting down and telling somebody, knowing what our justice system is like, that actually they'd rather go through the inward pain than the outward pain?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very much under the opinion that we still don't really have a justice system. I would just call it the legal system, because justice doesn't come into it, I don't think, actually. I might sound a bit sceptical, but often the law is not about doing the right thing. It's guided by money. It's guided by lots of other things, you know, red tape. But yeah, I think there must be so many reasons why victims still don't come forward for various things. And not just because it's such a difficult process, such a long process in court, and it might get thrown out anyway, or like you were just saying, it's their repercussions. You know, if something is taken to court and there's a threat to that person for telling what's happened, from, you know, somebody who may be an attacker or something like that, that could stop somebody from going to the police or to court, because obviously they're worried that if it does get thrown out or whatever, then they're at more risk.
Do you think then, Georgie, a way of going forward is getting rid of the CPS and almost taking everything that anybody ever reports straight to court?
Well, yeah, yes and no. I know it's a difficult subject, but rape should, just because somebody says they've been raped and somebody denies it, there's an awful lot of awful lot of a problem taking that to court. But I'm going to relate it to something else totally different to that. When we moved where I am now, we'd all got wooden windows, and a burglar came round. He did 6 one week and 4 the next. We all reported it. So there were 10 cases against this chap. They found out who did it, but he only got charged on one count. I think that's wrong, totally wrong.
Very, very wrong. And I'm sure that this is not a subject that it's finished now and we'll never talk about it again. I think it'll come up more and more. But tell us what you think. Do you think CPS are doing well at deciding if something should be thrown into court or thrown out? Do you think love can take over the emotion and make us do things that we regret, and we only see it when we're faced with it? Make sure you have your say. As I always say, you are the 5th panel member out there. Make sure you have your chat and your say. So let's talk about a little bit of a lighter subject now, panel, shall we? Shall we go and talk about a whole lot of rubbish? So, just days after the booking system at Lincolnshire Tips came to an end, there has been traffic frequently at Lincoln and Spalding waste and recycling centres. The booking system introduced during COVID, lockdown came to an end on Wednesday, the 1st of September, and centres went back to pre-pandemic opening hours. But people across the county has been facing long queues. So, panel of Lincolnshire, do you think, Claire, let's go to you first, do you think we're good at queuing and waiting?
Well, if you're talking to me, I am. Me, yeah. But the whole of Lincolnshire, I think we are, as British people, I think we are quite polite, personally, for queuing. I think, I'm not being funny, you bump into somebody, I know it's not that, and you'll say, oh, sorry, and like they bumped into you,
Yeah.
But it's just about being courteous, isn't it? It's about thinking about where are you queuing? You go at Christmas time to the supermarket, get your Christmas shopping, and you're always queuing. But that's what you expect. We've just come out of this. We're coming out of this pandemic, and like you say, things are getting back to normal. They've stopped the booking system now. Have they stopped it too soon? Should they go back into it now? But if you go up to a queue and you can see how long it is, at your local tip, then it's up to you if you've got the time to queue. Mm. And it'll be word of mouth that people will say, oh, don't go to the tip. I went there and I was queuing for 3 hours and blah, 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 blah. You've got to make time for these type of things. Okay, it's put you out. But
I've missed you. I just love how you just say how it is. You get on the rampage and off you go. Off you go,
hey, I haven't spoken to anybody for a long time, let me tell you. So I'm glad you put me in on the first one. First day back at work. First day back on here.
Exactly. You'll be on for weeks as well, because there'll be people dropping out and they'll be like, Claire, can you just come and I swear.
Yeah, I ain't got a life, yeah.
I swear of it. Chris, do you think go on, Georgie, go on.
So why did they create the a time slot for you to go? I've never understood that. I can't see a need for it.
I think it was the social distancing sort of thing. And I think that's why, because when you go to the tip now, don't you park up your car and there's different tips everywhere, but there's people gathering all in one space to throw stuff out. You're jumping out your car and stuff like that. So I think they were trying to oblige by the social distancing rules, and that's why they had to put that system in. That's why.
I've never quite agreed with it, but there we are.
Chris, do you think plain old manors that maybe was there when we were kids? Actually, how old are you?
40.
Oh, maybe not when we were kids. when you were kids, when you were kids, do you think plain old manners have gone out the window?
Well, I don't know. I don't think so, to be honest. Speaking from someone who lives in Sleaford, we seem like a pretty polite town, and we still are. People hold the door open for you. People seem to be quite good in queues, like you say. And and people who you don't even know say good morning to me. So in terms of my experience in a small town, I think we've got lots of polite people around, yeah.
Have you found that more with COVID though, Georgina? Have you found that people, I saw a friend the other week and she said she goes on lots of dog walks, and she I won't mention her name because she'll kill me, but she said throughout COVID, she even started to say hello to people that passed her in the street, and she would never do that before. Do you think COVID has had an impact of that, of us all being that little bit more polite? Yes,
I do. It's lovely to walk down the street, look somebody in the eye and get a smile. I love that. And it's still going on. I'm very pleased. So,
go on, Georgina. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, it's all right. It's that's one part of COVID that has really come out. But perhaps that's people caring for others.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah. Do you think it's changed though, Claire? Do you think like children, when I was growing up, I remember the saying, and I've never heard it for years now, but the saying that children should be seen and not heard, that now has gone out the window, that children are more now, which I think is the right way. You might disagree, but I think children are given more of a voice these days, because I think that really impacts you as a child into an adult about being seen and not heard, because that saying goes round and round in your head all the time. And even as a young adult growing up, I didn't feel like I had a voice for a very long time because I had to stay quiet. Do you agree with that? Do you think that that maybe was a bad saying those years
ago? Maybe, yeah. But times of everything from like when I was a child to like my children. You know, there's technology, isn't there? So you know, they voice themselves more because they've got more opinion, because they can look it up or they can see what other people are doing and things like that. Whereas when I was a child, I was literally out just playing. So as long as they could see me but not hear me, then that was good.
Me and my sister should have been more an opposite, honestly, because my sister was down at the park climbing trees and watching wrestling, and I was playing Barbie dolls in the bedroom. We should have been opposites, honestly. We really should have. When organising something, though, let's go to you, Georgina. When organising something, does it wind you up when people don't turn up when they say that they will?
Yes, it does wind me up. All right, I'm going to say I'm on here tonight because somebody hasn't been able to make it.
Sorry,
but they might have had a very valid excuse. But as a rule, I believe if you say you're going to turn up, you're going to turn up, and you turn up 5 or 10 minutes early. I was always taught that. That's how it should be. Simple as that.
If I'm honest, I'm a bit of a late bird, though. I am. I think. Actually, I've got to blame my best friend, sorry. Because for years and years, we used to go out to the pub and he says, oh, I'll meet you at 8 o'clock. And I would still be sat there at Harker Estate waiting for him to turn up. He did have children, so I will let him off. He did have kids. But does it really frustrate you? Would you, Claire, let's go to you actually, as one of the females on the panel. When going somewhere and you're organising to meet somebody and they've not turned up, would you walk in the year of 2020? Would you walk in the pub on your own? Would you order a drink from the bar and sit down?
Well, I am one of those people that are usually late.
Oh.
And my friend, when I told her what subjects they were, she was laughing and she went, no way, you because she goes mad. She's quite organised and that. And I'm not saying I'm not organised, but if I was going to meet somebody, I don't like going in pubs and places like that on my own, especially if it's a new place. But, you know, I will do it. But if I was going to be late, I would let them know. You know, everybody's got a mobile phone. So, you know, just to send a quick text saying, look, really sorry, I'm running late because of blah, 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 you know. So, but my friend now anyway, if I say, right, 8 o'clock, she'll say in her head, 20 past, yeah. Like, get the kettle on. And I say, I'll be there 5 minutes. She thinks I ain't putting the kettle on yet. She ain't going to be here. And I only live 4 doors down. So, I know it's awful, but I would let them know, you know.
I have to admit that I have seen this week one of the panel members hungover.
That's me.
But does it annoy you, Chris? Do you go out, and if you've organised a time to meet somebody, do you think it's really hard to discuss this, isn't it? Because gender is such a massive thing nowadays. But do you think it's easier for men to go into a pub and wait for a mate to arrive than a woman to go in on their own? Do you think it's a lot easier for us men?
I've never really considered it before, to be honest. Oh gosh, that's a hard question. I would like to just say though, on the subject of being late and being frustrated by lateness, in my younger years, I would always be on time, especially for social gatherings. And I hated being late. But now I've got children, I do sympathise more with late people, because as much as I try, I do turn up late sometimes because there's just so much other stuff going on.
We've had such I've got to say, I had the pleasure, Rachel Penny had the pleasure of meeting 2 of Chris's children only a couple of weeks ago, and I think Rachel Penny might need a few more skills on the PlayStation.
Oh.
When she was put down to go in against your son, he just wiped her clean off the floor, Chris. Is he there? Has he gone?
I think he's frozen.
Oh,
Yeah.
he's frozen, so he might be back in a minute. Claire, let's talk to you. Do you consider yourself quite a laid-back person, or can you fly off the handle really easily? Oh, he's back. Hi, Chris.
Apologies, yeah, I lost my connection for a little bit there. You were saying about Rachel or something, and then
I said, let me just repeat it, and then I'll go back to
Yeah.
Claire. I said that we had the pleasure of meeting 2 of your children, and Rachel Penny really needs to up her skills on the PlayStation, because your son just wiped her out. It just completely wiped her out. It was so good to watch.
Bless her.
Claire, are you a laid-back person, or do you fly off the handle really easily?
Both. Depends what winds me
Are
up.
you flying off the handle?
Me, fly off the
Yeah.
handle.
Do you?
Sometimes it just depends. That's all I'm saying. Just depends.
Georgina, at all, I've got to say you're not an argumentative person at all, are you? You're just very quiet and agree with what people say, don't you, Georgina?
No.
Do you think that it gets better with age though? Do you think flying off the handle is it gets less as you get older, Chris? Do you think we're a bit more laid back when we have the education of life a bit more in front of us?
I think so. Yeah, I do believe that is true. And of course, like going back to the whole kids thing, when you have kids, you can't fly off the handle all the time, can you? Because you'd be doing it every 2 seconds.
And again, doing that with my daughter, who's now 14, before I would go like that and she would go like that. And before we know it, we're up here. And then I would still be up here. She would wander off and then it would be like, oh, what's for tea? And I'm still here. So what I've learned is to like go, oh, yeah. Yeah. Then really inside I'm going, just don't do that because I'm going to explode. And yeah, she goes out the room and then I'll go, rah! And then, ooh. So then when she does come, I'm like,
I was taught being in a school, because when I was in a school a couple of years ago, there was this training called Team Teach that I'm trained in, and I've always been told, and I've used it in everyday life as well. When it comes to an argument or it comes to flying at somebody, it's a bit like a bottle of Coke. You can either shake that bottle of Coke, turn off the lid and watch it explode, or you can make that Coke go flat. And how they say to make the Coke go flat is never raise your voice. Talk like that. Talk. If they're shouting, oh, okay, I get that. So that is a very professional way of doing it, Claire.
Yeah, and again, with me, these past few years working in a school, like you say, you have a lot of children with with needs and things like
Complex
that.
needs.
You go straight in and like go, rah.
Doesn't work.
That's exactly what you've just said. It's that bottle of Coke effect, and you've lost them. You're trying to literally bring them down because something's triggered off. So for you to literally, they've done wrong or what have you, but for you to literally go in and raise your voice, which for me is quite difficult to not do, but like you say, just don't talk like that. You've got to, but it's really difficult because we all have stresses of life, so the mum head goes off I go put my work head on, but the kids, you know what I mean? So it's like leave my two, and then I've got like 32.
It's weird, isn't it? But have your say. See, I love conversation and I love topic. We come up with 3 questions and we end up with like
103
by the end of it.
Yeah.
But have your say. Do you think, as Lincolnshire and as a nation, we are good at queuing and being patient? Do you think you are one of the people that fly off the handle, but have you got a little bit better as getting older? Obviously, Georgina is our lead on this tonight, because as she's got older, she's got a lot more laid back, haven't you, Georgina?
Yes.
But have your say. Remember, you're the 5th panelist. We are going to finish on a relationship story again. It's been quite heavy in the news this last week about relationships. But I'll put the card down without reading it. Police are looking for a man after a woman was sexually assaulted in a pub in Lincolnshire. I'm going to say no more than that. A man was reported to have gone into a busy pub and touched a woman's backside. It happened in Lincolnshire on August 14th. The man was described as white, early 20s, 6 foot tall, short, light coloured hair. But that got me thinking, when we look at relationships and we look at ex-partners and people that we've been with, do you think it's important to still stay civil with an ex, even if there's children not involved? Let's go to you first, Chris.
Well, obviously, like you were saying about it, if you've got kids involved, that makes things a bit different. But yeah, let's forget that for a moment. There's no need to kind of be civil, particularly, I guess. But then there's also no need to be nasty. So I think some people need to. It depends on the circumstances, isn't it? If a relationship ends, some people just need to walk away and have their space, and that's that. If you can be friends, if you can be civil, great. That's good. If you can do that, that's a good thing. But there's no need to, feel like you have to be civil, I think.
Do you feel that, Claire, you can do that from day one though? Or do you think it's like a grieving process? Do you think that you need to grieve the relationship and get over the relationship before you even contemplate carrying on talking to a person? Do you think that time away to begin with is really important?
I think it all depends on the individual person, the reasons of why you've split up, and have you split up because it's amicable, but you still want to be friends with that person, but then that person's moved on, you've moved on. I think it just depends on the situations. I'm friends with quite a few of my ex's parents still. Christmas cards, even their birthdays, because I just think, you know, through life, I've had a couple of relationships that have not worked out for whatever reason. But, you know, they've moved on, I've moved on, but we've still stayed in touch. You know, there's no reasoning behind, you know, like even with my children's dad, you know, we're still amicable. And that, yes, it is for the children, but it's also, you know, why should I have vent up whatever? You know, we've split up, move on, life goes on. You know, there's no good having, I'm not really an angry person. Yeah, I might blow up, but I just think, why? People
do you think
do say
though,
that.
Georgina, that when you've been burnt in a relationship, because I have, when you've been burnt in a relationship, do you think then trust and making a new relationship and opening your heart is a lot harder?
Yes. You're more reserved. You've got that brick wall that you've got to climb. Yes, but I'm not. I'm going to say I'm not very experienced in that. Having a long-term relationship, but yes, I think it would be difficult. But I was going to get engaged to a girl down in Southampton, and I was in the forces in the RAF out in Germany. And we used to meet up as often as we could. But this girl wasn't loyal at all. She went and met an army lad. She even had the nerve to invite me to her engagement party. And I got to admit, I flew upon on that occasion. But I didn't do anything. If I'd been somebody else, I might have wanted to maim the other person involved. But as a rule, walk away, and that's what
I
I
think
had to do
love
again.
has changed over the years, though, Chris. Do you think like if you think back years ago, when somebody mentioned like an age gap love, it was frowned upon? Do you think we've changed in that society? So, age gap love and even distance relationships. Do you think they are more common nowadays than the average meet up in a pub, get to know somebody, chat on the phone, write them a letter? Do you think all of that has changed and it's going in the right direction?
Oh, I think a lot's changed in terms of attitudes towards relationships, and it is generally the right direction. I think people are more open now to, instead of just blindly believing that something is wrong without really thinking, reasoning it, people are more sort of open to accepting a relationship as long as it's not hurting anyone, and it's as simple as that.
Yeah, definitely. Claire, do you think heartbreak gets easier as you get older?
No, it doesn't get any easier, and that's why I'm avoiding it. I can't be doing with it. And again, I'm now into my 50s. You know, my children are sort of.
You look nowhere near 50.
I'm older. I'm not. I'm 53.
I know you don't look it at all. You look really good for your age.
Thank you. I'll tell you my secrets later. It's just been really difficult, you know. Again, I've been on my own since the children were little anyway, so you know, I'm just not good at romance. I'm not saying I don't want it, but it's all that first meeting, you know, meeting the parents or the family, and of course now I am older, I've got children, well, they have children, grandchildren, and it's all, you know, and I'm like, do I want
does it
that?
put you off?
It puts me off. I would like it, because I would like, and I'm not being sorry for myself here, but I would like to be loved, you know, for me. And it can be lonely, you know, lockdown, COVID, isolation, all that. But do I want to go through all that?
It's hard, isn't it? It's hard. Chris, if you saw a friend or a family member in a relationship that you felt was not good to them, would you get involved?
Yes, I probably would now. Partly because I've been in that situation a few times where people who are quite close to me have been in relationships that are either toxic or, you know, for some reason, a dangerous situation to be in. And I think, having looked back at the little that I did or said about it, I would probably be inclined to say or do a lot more.
I think it all depends, though, doesn't it? Because the thing is, I think I would. So if I think of an example of a friend, it's really, because I've been in that really sticky situation. If somebody got involved that was really close to me, I don't know if I would back that close person up, because obviously I'm with that other person. But I would do it discreetly in a sort of way. So if they spoke to me and said, "Oh, that you flew off the handle the other night when he got home, and he threw a cup across the kitchen," I would be more entitled to say, "So, do you think that's acceptable? Do you think if I was telling you that, do you think that's an acceptable behaviour? Do you think that's okay to do when you cross?" So I would be really discreet about it. I've learned big time, massive time, that I wanted a lot of my life people to give me answers and to tell me what to do. But I've had a really close friend, Judy Shaw, who taught me a hell of a lot about, every time I asked her a question, she would answer it with a question. And I think that it makes you think of your own brain, because you can resent somebody, can't you? If somebody tells you, right, this is what's happening, well, you should do that, and then it breaks up, you could resent that person for that relationship breaking down. So it's really hard to talk about, isn't it? It's really hard to find that balance of how much you support a friend. But would
it's
you...
about being diplomatic, isn't it, at the end of the day?
Yeah.
And again, we're all different, aren't we? So, you know, what you probably might accept or not in a relationship is probably not what somebody else might or not. You know, just depend, like say, on the whatever's happening.
But would you be blunt, Claire? Would you step forward and be blunt with that person, or would you be discreet in the background and slowly creeping in?
I think I'd have to be...
Or the other thing, sorry, would you confront the partner that's being...
No, well, like I say, it depends on how, you know, how serious this is for me to, because like you've said, you know, if I wade in and say my piece, it's then like the other person's gonna, you know, whoever I've just spoken to will go to their partner and say, you know, how do they know about this? And you know, you must have been telling them this, and it can just, you know, just blow up out of all proportion. They then can carry on in their relationship, and then you've lost this person. Could do, because
I'll be quite personal here. That I would say I had a fling with somebody at the end of lockdown. You would have seen on one of the shows that I had a different background, and that's because I was at his house. It only lasted 4 weeks. It didn't last very long. But I remember I confided in one of his friends, and she said to me, "You're not his usual type. If I'm completely honest with you, you're not his usual type." And that was starting to show. So in the nicest possible way, how do I say this discreetly? But we never got close. We never got close in that sort of way at all. And I remember going back to his house one day, and I said, I know I'm not your type. I spoke to your friend, and we don't do anything. And he said to me, "Who are you talking to about our sex life?" And I went, "What bloody sex life? What sex life have we got? There's nothing there." So it was kind of interesting. But tell us what you think. Would you be civil with an ex-partner? Do you think you can be friends with them and carry on like a different sort of relationship and love? Or do you think long gone? For me, it's long gone. And do you think that children have a big part to play with it? Have your say. Series 3, episode 1 has finished. Well done, panel. Thank you for joining us on tonight's show. It's great to be back on your screens again. We've missed it on a Monday night, and it's good to... goes out on a Tuesday night, we record on a Monday night, but it's great to be back on your screens again, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Can you thank my panel for this evening? The man that is more considerate now for lateness because he's got children, that's Chris Clark. The woman that's always laid back and never is into confrontation, that's Georgina Croshaw. And the lady that will always fight for her children, no matter what, that's Claire Browning May. Join us next week as we've got a brand new panel all over again.